NU is a group of activists, researchers, lawyers and teachers working on campaigns that are really trying to deal with some of the big issues for poor and working class communities in South Africa. Lufuna Kwazi has been working for a number of years with a couple of organizations, both nationally but mostly in Khayelitsha. Organizations like TAC and Equal Education and Social Justice Coalition. These organizations have, through the daily running of their campaigns, brushed up against the criminal justice system. So we've been part of a long-term campaign to try and get political focus onto policing in Khayelitsha.
One of our primary objectives is to build community understanding of policing in South Africa, and giving people the power to have oversight over the police. Primarily our work thus far has been involved with the Commission of Inquiry, it's the first time ever that people, community members, have been able to call very senior members of the police, including the Provincial Commissioner, to account and to ask them, what's happening in our community, why is policing not working in our community.
Well, I'm prepared to apologize for the lack of services rendered to address the crime problems in the Khayelitsha area.
It gave us a really great understanding of how policing works, both from national level right down to how stations are run, right down to simple things like how they order toilet paper. So we've never before had such a clear insight into how the police service works in South Africa.
Our work has been focused on the commission, but it's broader than that. It's that was just the phase that's come to an end. Moving forward, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of making things practical. So there will be a lot of room, a lot of work coming from that.
Ultimately, our goal is to build a police force that is effective and accountable, that's under professional and ethical command, and which is governed by democratic principles.
A couple of our programs are joined together with the Social Justice Coalition under a joint program called Imali Yetu, which means our money. If you imagine that there's a cycle that starts with the municipality developing an integrated development plan, and then yearly a budget that they adjust, and they release that as a draft budget, and then the budget works out, and there's tenders that gets put out, and then service that gets delivered, and then that gets reviewed, and then it goes back into the budget. And we try and do work that plugs into various points along that cycle. So we are working on a couple of campaigns to ensure that municipal budgets are accessible by everyday citizens, that they can participate in them, that they understand them, because you'll find that municipal budgets in particular are about this size, and they by law have to be done in a participatory way.
I monitor city spending from the sources of revenue the city gets through to how the city actually allocates the funds. And the idea is, after finding out whatever I find out or the conclusions I get, we get to inform normal members of the public, particularly the differentialized members of the public, those who are dwelling in formal settlements, and try to get them to understand what's happening and also how to influence the budget by participating in the budget process.
At the moment, it's about services in Khayelitsha, because the SJC is based in Khayelitsha. So we're looking at services in informal settlements and looking at budget allocations, and then I bring in the service delivery contract side. So how much money is spent on services, and specifically in informal settlements, so there are no houses, it's just shacks. Those are generally outsourced services, so your toilets, your refuse collection, and your area cleaning, which is usually done by the city in most areas. In informal settlements, that's outsourced to companies, and often there's not a lot of, they're not doing their job properly. That's why there are a lot of service delivery protests.
And then on the other side, we do a lot of teaching and learning for activists. We run a couple of different courses and programs that activists can sign on to.
The idea really is political education of a new wave of activists from social movements. I think there's been a need felt all over the place for that, particularly for the people who are young in the organizations. They don't know what you're talking about if you talk about the struggles of the 90s, never mind earlier on. And I think there's a feeling across the organizations, and certainly in Ndifuna Ukwazi, that you kind of need that background.
And one of the things that we are trying to do is to provide a few opportunities for younger activists who are active in the community and who belong to social justice movements to have an opportunity to reflect on the history of struggle in South Africa, to learn about the politics of the country, something about the economics and the history of our country.
I think what really makes NU move is the people. Everyone's got something to offer and to share and to give, and I think that's a very refreshing environment in which to work, especially because of the dynamic nature of our work.
Even if I'm not working for Ndifuna Ukwazi, I want to work for this civil society organization because I wanted something that will enable me to pay back what I've gained from Ndifuna Ukwazi. Because when you gain information like this, it doesn't let you to just relax. It makes you to always want to do something, because that's why they say knowledge is power. When you have knowledge, you can't escape seeing something that is wrong and unjust happening in our communities.